Well, we have had a great year, but the truth is you have had a great year. Because you're the ones that do the work. You're the ones that do the real work. You're the ones that are in the trenches, that truly are serving America's most vulnerable every day. I'm a paper pusher now. You are still doing the work. You are still doing the caregiving. You are the folks that I kind of lived through and gained inspiration from. And you've had some wonderful achievements that I want to highlight first this morning so that people can see that and celebrate that. Number one, I want to lead off with, and this is just a few highlights, the opening of the Blue Butterfly Village right here in LA. Long-time dream of my friend Bob Pratt, aided by Dr. John Sharon, who were visited recently by the VA Secretary, Bob McDonald. Now, I can remember a time when in our board meetings we talked about how do we get an introduction to the VA Secretary? How do we somehow make contact with and get on the radar screen of the VA Secretary? I remember that conversation taking place in our boardroom 5 years ago. Now we have them coming to us, literally coming to us, and that is by the efforts of everybody in this room, along with the outstanding work, because it makes them look good as well when we do good on their behalf. And it was so good that it was even covered by CBS with a wonderful story that aired on Memorial Day. And so I'd like for our folks to get to see that wonderful story and celebrate with our colleagues here in LA.
On this Memorial Day, we want to focus on one area of our military that is often overlooked: homeless female veterans. Ben Tracy visited a special neighborhood in the San Pedro section of Los Angeles. He found women getting the chance to rebuild their way of life after defending ours.
I thought it was going to be a lot easier. Definitely a lot easier.
After 4 years in the Army, serving in Germany and Iraq, Danielle Chavez thought she had her life figured out. But when she left the military in 2011, her marriage ended. She struggled to pay for school and ended up living in her car. She had to send her 2 young girls to live with a relative.
Every day I missed them. Every day. I felt like they were growing up without me.
Was being homeless tougher on you physically or tougher on your pride?
It definitely was tougher on my pride because I didn't want anybody to know I was homeless. You don't want to admit that this is something that could happen when you're a veteran.
There are more than 4,000 homeless female veterans in this country, many with children. They account for 8% of the nation's 58,000 homeless vets. But a new housing development just opened in Los Angeles is providing hope in the form of a key. It's called Blue Butterfly Village, built specifically for homeless female veterans with children. This former Navy housing was rotting away, but has been given new life.
That's where you came to eat breakfast.
To give vets such as Danielle a new life, too.
You could start unpacking your clothes, too.
3 weeks ago, she and her daughters moved into this fully furnished home. The community playground is right outside their back door.
Do you like living close to the playground?
Yeah.
I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to move my car. I don't have to fold my blankets on somebody's couch. And people can come visit us here instead of us sleeping somewhere else.
There are 73 subsidized townhomes in the complex. It costs $15 million to refurbish, paid for by the Volunteers of America. The veterans pay rent based on a sliding scale. But living here also comes with mental health counseling, job training, money management programs, and child care services. Veterans Affairs says the goal is to get these vets back on their feet, but they can stay here for the rest of their lives.
Look!
And we have lots of these that the Department of Defense is decommissioning, and we in the VA want to pick them up right away. We want to make them sites where we can best care for veterans. This is the future.
Thank you so much, and it's beautiful.
Many of these veterans, including Maria Teresa Alcazar, suffer from PTSD. She was one of the first women to serve on an aircraft carrier and was stationed on the USS Carl Vinson during 9/11.
It is a tough memory. The military is a tough memory.
That's because she is also one of the many women raped while serving their country. A 2014 study by the Veterans Health Administration found nearly 40% of female homeless veterans were sexually assaulted while in the military.
I got assaulted by police officers in our military, and I thought I was so strong. thought I could fight men off even, and I can't, and that's just the truth about it.
Alcazar's PTSD made it hard to keep a job. She wound up homeless with 2 young sons. But now they found a home at Blue Butterfly Village. Her boys have a place to play, and she has something she never thought she'd live without.
I'm sorry, but I have to do this really quick because I have a bed.
Volunteers of America hopes to eventually take over 70 more vacant units owned by a nearby school. That would double the population here. 70 more women like Maria Teresa who would now have a home.
This is the best looking house ever.
I imagine this is more than 4 walls. What does this represent to you?
It's freedom.
Does it feel good?
I'm happy. There is none of sadness, but I am happy because you don't got to worry about where you lay your head. You have an address. I love it.
And a foundation to build a better life for their families. For CBS This Morning, Ben Tracy, Los Angeles.
All right, isn't that cool? Isn't that really, really cool? Wonderful, wonderful work, great work, dedication, pays off, and you know, you can't talk about serving veterans with Volunteers of America without talking about our friends at the Home Depot. They have proven. Another $1.5 million this year coming out to you at the affiliates to expand housing, to make this work really come alive. Close to $10 million over the last several years. It is phenomenal, phenomenal. No other corporation in America has made the commitment to serving veterans that the Home Depot Foundation has made. And you have impacted not just the veterans that we serve at Volunteers of America, but literally over countless organizations throughout our country. We would not have made the impact as a country in serving veterans were it not for the leadership of the Home Depot Foundation. And thank you very, very much. We're going to talk more about it in a minute, but we can't talk about it too much. In addition to that, we had other wonderful opportunities. You had wonderful opportunities and capitalized on them this past year in our senior housing and healthcare work. We had new PACE programs and new housing programs open up in places like North Carolina, Michigan, Minnesota, all done by our national affiliate known internally as National Services. And all of you folks are here with your national meeting with us as the whole family. And so would you all stand? I want everyone that's connected to National Services that have been a part of these healthcare and housing projects, please stand so everyone can see. All right. Day in and day out in the trenches, I learn from you every time I go to a facility. And I love going to the facilities. You know, I get so much more from it than they get when I visit. But it is absolutely amazing to see that work. And about 100 years ago, as a young man, I started my career in senior services by opening up senior nutrition sites in Fort Worth, Texas, and the housing projects in Fort Worth, Texas. And there was nothing better. And I found that immediately when I had a senior nutrition center with about 100 seniors coming, I had about 100 little grandmother bosses, and it was pretty darn cool. It was pretty darn cool. I'll tell you a quick story about that. We always had a little bit out of the box thinking, and we had a restriction on how many folks we could sign up for home delivery of meals for the shut-ins based on the federal criteria. We could only take 10% of our total being served to do home delivered meals, but we had more than 10% of the housing projects that were infirm. And so we needed a way around that, so I got the local public health nurse to sign off on the other 10 or 15 folks that needed that delivery, and then we started what we called Meals on Heels, and it was literally dishing up meals onto a plastic plate. We broke every regulation in the book onto a plastic plate, a series of plastic plates, then hopping into my Ford Falcon that smoked out the hood and driving around the projects, running those meals up to those doors, and those little people really appreciated it. Let me tell you. So you'll never see me getting on to you for breaking the rules, bending it a little bit, okay? If it means good service, in the end. It's absolutely the right thing to do. Yesterday we got a chance to hear from another part of our family, the Glenn Campbell family, who have really become our family. And of course, last night was a great night of celebration for them to see the film on CNN and see all the news. And I understand by the end of the night, I was getting emails and text messages and whatnot that Facebook was blowing up with good stuff about us and our involvement with the film. Of course, people saw it all day long as far as the promos for it, and there are more showings to happen. Another thing that happened in the midst of that we haven't had a chance to share with everyone, but you need a chance to see, is that we have the opportunity for when it goes to DVD to actually produce a spot or share a spot that would go on the DVD about Volunteers of America as one of the executive producers of the film. And so I handed that off to our brilliant people in the Richards Group, and they did a wonderful job of taking our existing material, putting it together with one of Glenn's songs, as opposed to the music that we had been using, and coming up with a special customized spot for that DVD series. I'd like for you to get to see that now, if possible, if we can run that spot for you.
I've tried and I have failed, Lord. I've won and I have lost. I've lived and I have loved, Lord. Sometimes that's such a cost. One thing I know, the world's been good to me, a better place awaits, you'll see. A better place.
I just love that. Don't you just love that? I mean, it was such a perfect fit. The song was such a perfect fit for us, and Glenn would be happy to know that he's helping us at the same time, at the very same time. So, another wonderful thing that happened to us, and let's pull those lights up a little bit again if we can, because I'm like Dawn. I really love to see our people and see their faces. Was our involvement with the Ladies Professional Golf Association in the LPGA tournament, and where we moved from being a partial sponsor of that to being the title sponsor and having our name on the front end of that. And I have to tell you a little story about that as well. We have been advocating pretty strongly, and with the help of our friends like Rich Woodward sitting right there, and others locally that really helped us advocate with the LPGA for our role, and really kind of pitching the concept that, you know, if you put our name in there, we think it'll attract a lot more sponsors and be a lot more successful tournament. We think we have value. We truly have brand value, even though we're still building that brand. We didn't know how far we would get with that. I figured we would make another step this past year, and then suddenly they had some things happen, and the next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call in the car, and it's the LPGA commissioner, Michael Wan, and he's offering us, we would like for you to consider being the title sponsor at about a third the price that we usually offer this to major corporations. Major corporations like Toyota and Evian Water and people like that, because we believe that you do have that value. And I was stunned by that call. I mean, I expected us to make progress. I did not expect this to happen. And so I was so stunned that I pulled over, and first thing I did was I called the Richards Group. I happened to be in Dallas. I called the Richards Group and said, look, guys, we got to talk this afternoon. You know, can you make time for me to come by and talk about this afternoon? And they did. And I made a couple of other calls to folks, and my head was just spinning. And I pulled in this little gas station, you know, where they have parking spots at the gas station, not where you're at the pump, but over by little parking spaces. And it was kind of sunny when I pulled in. And then by the time I got off the phone with these conversations, was getting ready to back out, it looked like a cloud had come in, and it was real dark out my back glass, like it was almost becoming night. And I thought, wow, it's gotten really cloudy. And so I started backing up. Well, that wasn't a cloud, that was a UPS truck. True story. A brown UPS truck had pulled in right behind me to make their deliveries to the gas station. And now how do you explain to your insurance agent, you didn't see the UPS truck? explain that? True story, absolute truth. I have yet to fix the bumper on my car. I can't tell them that. You know, what am I going to say? I backed into a UPS truck. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I didn't know it was there. What do I know? Goodness gracious. Well, much better things happen from that point forward, okay? Much better things happen from that point forward. And one of the best things that happened as far as I'm concerned is we identified a wonderful team led by our new Vice President of Marketing, Tanisha Smith, right here. Stand up and wave, Tanisha. As well as our creative gurus, Hope Gibson, Alejandro Rojas. They're right back here somewhere. And our event coordinator, Christina Hughes. I hope she's in here somewhere. Good Christina. She's going to really take care of all our volunteers with this. We've had a wonderful experience with them, and they have completely bought in to the fact that our brand brings value to this, and that our success is their success, and they are helping pitch us now to the corporations that support them to become supporters of us, and that was one of the prime movers of this. First piece was branding. Second piece was truly the cultivation of new relationships with corporations that would have never had an opportunity to meet us and get to know us without this kind of experience. And so that has happened. And in the meantime, I asked Hope and Alejandro to do their wonderful creative work, which no one does better. And we have a brief video that kind of shows the response that people had to us and to the Volunteers of America brand during that week. And you'll recognize some names and some people in this video.
When you help the Volunteers of America North Texas Shootout, you're really not just helping a golf tournament. It isn't about helping young women in their golf career. It isn't about being on TV in 170 countries. It isn't even really about a great hometown event here in North Texas. What it's about is helping people all around the world through Volunteers of America. We're not just putting on a golf tournament here. We're creating opportunity for men, women, and children at the time in their lives when they need it most. So don't think of this as just a great opportunity to host your customers. Don't think of this as just a great opportunity to meet some of the best female golfers on the planet. Think of this as an opportunity to do both of those things and make a difference in the lives of somebody at the time in their life when they need it most.
To be able to play this week here in Texas with the Volunteers of America has been such an honor. To be able to be a part of a tournament that gives back, I think is really important. As a professional golfer, I think we have such a huge platform to be able to promote organizations like this, and it's such a great cause. So it's been a great week. It's been great support from everybody here in Irving, and I want to thank everybody who's been a part of this week.
We are charity-minded, the LPGA as well as the PGA, and the work that y'all do, gosh, I can see where, some players that might be anxious to participate or do something in that line. A great many of them are very much into that mindset of helping others, and some players might be looking more into being connected with Volunteers of America. I think has a lot of good things that could happen.
I realized I was put on this earth not to just play golf, but to be an ambassador for Christ. I'm delighted that Volunteers of America came on board to partner us the last 2 years, and certainly it's an incredible organisation. It's nice to be able to raise awareness for those in need. It's a privilege to do what we do, and if we can give back, then that's a bonus. And to team up with Volunteers of America, hopefully we can just continue raising awareness for those that are not quite as fortunate and help them out. Because when we're serving others, that's when we're most like Christ. So I think most people feel really fulfilled when they're giving back.
We have one wonderful little announcement to make. This past Tuesday, I made a quick run to Fayetteville, Arkansas, which I've never flown to Fayetteville, Arkansas. That was the one place in America I hadn't flown to, where they were playing their tournament that week, to pitch an idea to Mike Whan. I love Mike Whan, the LPGA Tour Commissioner. I feel like he could be my little brother. I mean, he really is sort of a marketing guy, and it really is about building the brand, and we tend to talk the same language. And I had a thought, how many of you remember the old NFL United Way series of years ago, where during every NFL game they'd have one of the players and whatnot, and then film a spot and show that promoting the brand and promoting their work and whatnot. And I thought, well, what about an LPGA Volunteers of America series? Using the players to highlight the services of Volunteers of America, and have that run year-round on the Golf Channel, not just the week of our tournament, but during the week of every tournament, throughout the year on the Golf Channel, and make that affiliation and engage the players, both well-known and not as well-known. To highlight our brand, and I went to Mike to pitch that idea to him, and it absolutely resonated with him. He saw the opportunities for both of us to build our brand through that, to leverage the exposure year-round through that, and also leverage the fact that the players, these particular athletes, are not your average athlete. They truly are community-minded. They truly do care about what we do. They truly engage in what we do. You heard last on that video, Kathleen Kirk, who is a devout faith-based player and spent time with our ministers. And if we can catch her in the off season, I think we can get her commissioned. You know, I mean, I think she can be part. That's always kind of my goal. You know, we got James. Now I want to go after a few others. You know, because I think that's the ultimate commitment. That's the ultimate way for us to spread our ministry and to join folks. And so, starting next January, we're going to start shooting those spots, and they're going to start leveraging that to be broadcast year-round. And last but not least, on the celebration side, the branding continues, the momentum continues with the branding. Even the Track and Stadium, you're going to see a workshop tomorrow where they go through some of the latest results, but we're continuing to move the needle upward as far as raising the level of recognition that we have systematically each year. And you know, but maybe the best sign of that, maybe the best evaluator of that is not the statistical results on the tracking study or the number of mentions we see on CNN, but something that happened last week, and that is that we officially became an answer on Jeopardy. Yeah. So show that slide. Look at it, and there's the answer right there. Well, the organization Volunteers of America pioneered these houses for those leaving the incarceration. They're talking about Maud Booth and starting a halfway house movement in America, and it made it to Jeopardy last week. Way to go, Maud. I consider that to be the ultimate recognition. You know, the ultimate branding is to make a Jeopardy slide. So we're going to save that one. We're going to print that up on cards and pass them out. You know, I think we should be really proud of that. Going forward, maybe the most impactful thing that happened in the past year, and that we're now going forward, and you've been hearing us talk about this morning, this year, is truly the introspective R&D work represented by our deep dive into the topic of moral injury. I really believe this is one of the most important things that we've had before us, and that we've really become aware of in recent times. Our deep dive into the work is highlighted by the work and spearheaded by the work of the Home Depot Foundation, and most recently highlighted by an opportunity with HSBC to support us in a similar way, and maybe for the first time allow us to actually invest financially in the study and practice of treatment around moral injury, and the conversation and dialogue around moral injury, and to go deeper into that. And so to sort of give some grounding to that, I want to share with you some thoughts that I shared at Founders Day during our sermon there, which I know not everyone gets to see those and has time to see those, but literally when we were founded in 1896 by Maud Mallington, it was only 30 years hence the ending of the Civil War. Just 30 years. That's not very long in terms of that. And that means that literally most of the people that they served were veterans of the Civil War. Now, the Civil War is something that gets a little bit lost as far as the statistical piece of it, but it was and is our most deadly war we have ever fought by every statistical measure that you can look. 625,000 deaths, 281,000 wounded. 2% of the entire U.S. population was impacted personally by that war, by being wounded or killed. That is triple the ratio. The ratio of population is triple that of World War II. Okay? Triple that of World War II. It is by far the war that impacted the most human beings on our continent that we have ever fought. 6 times that. Imagine a divided country, completely divided country, politically, racially, economically. Sound familiar? Sound a little familiar? So take today's divisions that we see highlighted, multiply it. Go back to when our founders founded us, and imagine what it was like 30 years hence, when literally, the war was the most primitive, the most brutal, the most intimate that we had ever fought. It was trauma on steroids, truly trauma on steroids, and yet we weren't fighting people from a foreign culture and a foreign land with speaking a foreign language that we couldn't understand, where we couldn't even communicate. We were fighting someone one state over, that maybe only a river or an arbitrary boundary is what caused us to have that battle. Sometimes these were relatives, not just people we were familiar with, maybe people we had actually recreated with at one time. Clearly the most intimate war we've ever fought. Every single program, as you see them 30 years hence, when homelessness is growing dramatically in our country. Prisons, same thing, filling up dramatically in our country. Addiction, growing like crazy in our country. We were suffering from moral injury. All of these people were suffering from moral injury. We had not given it a name at that point. The mental health community had not diagnosed or defined PTSD. It was not there at that time. But literally, the majority of the people that were being served by Maud and Ballington in prisoner reentry, in substance abuse recovery, in homelessness, were actually suffering from moral injury. This is where this came from. This is what gave us our start. We have been doing this from our very inception. Who better than us to take this on? Who better than us to know that this relates and connects to every service we do? And it reaches even places that we don't expect it to reach. The first time I saw the Glen Campbell I'll Be Me film in a screening, very rough cut, I was absolutely struck. I mean, and I love Glen, lifelong Glen fan, but there was no question to me that this was a caregiver story. This was the story about the caregiver. This was a story about Kim. And the piece there was that this story would validate. When you see Kim play this out on the screen, it validates for other caregivers who have been in similar situations the pain that they feel that they never did enough. I can't tell you how many times at a screening, surviving spouses came up to us and said, "Thank you so much for showing this film. I'm going to be able to get a peaceful night's sleep tonight for the first time since my husband passed." For the first time. And I connected to that because I had the same issue with my care of my mom. I had had that responsibility for the last 4 or 5 years there in Texas before coming here. And I shared with Jatrice, my sweet mate at the office, that, you know, I never woke up in the morning afterwards, really until the I'll Be Me film, until the study, the meeting of Dr. Brock around moral injury. I never woke up in the morning feeling like I did enough. Not ever. I never once got up thinking, wow, didn't we do really well? Did I do really well for Mom? Wasn't I a good son? No. All I could think about was, why didn't I do more? Why didn't I make her move in with me? She was so tough and so stubborn and so independent. I couldn't get her to not want to live independently, you know, so I let her live alone. Why didn't I make her move in with me? Why didn't I move in with her? Why didn't I put my job on back burner like I know she would have done for me if the situation had been reversed? How could I do that? How could I do that? And it wasn't until I saw the film and watched Kim deal with the very same issues that I realized it validated that experience for me. If it validated it for me, it'll validate it for every other caregiver out there. And then as I discovered the issues around moral injury, I realized that's what we were dealing with here. That's what we were dealing with for caregivers, as well as those others, where you feel like you have done something or not done something that is a part of your moral code. You won't let yourself off the mat. You won't let yourself off the mat, and therefore you must get into that. You know, the last couple of weeks of my mom's life, she had an episode at the skilled nursing center. She was only at the skilled nursing center for a couple of weeks, thank God, because I don't think she would have dealt with that very well. She was just too independent and too strong. But one night she had an episode with her blood pressure going sky high and her not being able to identify who she was and where she was. And they called me, and we were on the way to the hospital, to the emergency room, and I met them there and spent the night there. And then we got her in a room and stuff. And the next morning, she looks up at me and said, they told me I didn't know where I was and didn't know my name. Why was that, Mike? Why was that? And I said, oh, Mom, you were just confused. And then she looks back up at me and says, will I always be confused? And I said, no, Mom, that's what the medicine's for. The medicine will help you with that. It'll take care of that. And the next week, God took her, and it was probably a blessing at that point that He did. I am convinced from my own experience, as well as the experiences that I get to hear from people, that I have the privilege to get to hear from people, that through the academic and soulful journey, through the history and treatment of moral injury, we have the opportunity, we truly have, the Volunteers of America have the opportunity to lead our nation, truly lead our nation, and ultimately produce the best results in programmatic metrics. This could be our moment to do that. I really, truly believe that. We are at an intersection of faith, science, introspection, and action. And so in the words of President John F. Kennedy, if not us, who? If not now, when? God bless you. God bless all of you. I am truly honored to be